Welcome to another OU Insider Postgame podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Jesse Crittenton, Parker Thune, and this podcast, as always, is powered by Olipop. Go to your four convenience stores in Oklahoma and or Texas, whether Walmart, Whole Foods, Target, Sprouts, or go to drinkolipop.com. Go to the promo code, type in the promo code Champion20 to get 20% off your purchase of Olipop. We want to thank Olipop for being a proud sponsor of OU Insider and all of our podcasts. All right, the title sponsor, actually, not just any sponsor, the title sponsor. All right, Oklahoma won 66-17 today in what might have been the most impressive first quarter I've seen from an Oklahoma team. And I'm trying to remember it. I'm not even going to put the first game of the year because that does not count, in my opinion, even though it did happen. It's got to be what, OU Texas 2012, maybe. I mean, I'm trying to think. 20.
I would have said Bedlam last year because that was 28-0.
Yeah, no, Bedlam.
Yeah,
good one.
Yeah, that's where I was going. That the first quarter was really the only quarter the Oklahoma offense played that night.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was awful.
It was a heck of a quarter.
Yeah, they were super impressive. I guys, we've got to talk about Dillon Gabriel. I think that you start and you end there when it comes to the offense. DG was, he brought his bag out today, bros. Like, that dude was on his game. 28 of 31, 421 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 90% completion percentage in 31 pass attempts, and a QBR of 251.2. Isn't like 275 perfection?
No, I don't know. QBR is such a bizarre stat. There's one that the NFL uses, and there's one that's used primarily in college football. And they're completely different scales. And I have no idea, to be frank with you, how you calculate them. But yeah, objectively, Dillon Gabriel was excellent today. He threw his first interception of the season. It was a deep shot to Gavin Freeman, and he got rocked as he released that ball. Yeah. So you know what? You'll take the bad.
Kind of throw it away, right?
Yeah. You'll take the bad with the good on a day like today, where Gabriel went for 421, 5 touchdowns, and only threw 3 incompletions. So that interception, all things considered, more than permissible. He's got a 12-1 touchdown to interception ratio through 3 games here. So yeah, look, and Jalil Farouk said it, and Jesse, I'll let you, because you were the one standing there. I think you were the one that tweeted out the quote, but what exactly was it that Jalil Farouk said about Dillon Gabriel after the game concluded?
Well, the question was, what's different about Dillon Gabriel through 3 games this season compared to last season? And Jalil Farouk, who obviously had an incredible game himself, I think a much needed good game for him, said aggressiveness. But then he went on to say that I think it was a pretty telling quote. He said after a 6-7 season last year that Dillon Gabriel took a lot of trash talk from the fans from college football, and that Dillon Gabriel seems to be on a mission this year, and even said he's a Heisman candidate. And I think that was pretty telling, because it wasn't just the normal, oh, my teammate played awesome. I think not only is it clear that this team has, noticed that Dillon Gabriel has an interesting, maybe the fans have an interesting relationship with him, but I think this team has noticed it too. I think that's the other thing too. And I think this team is really trying to play for him. And so anyways, I thought that was an interesting quote. And yeah, I mean, according to OU, he set the school record for completion percentage in a game, minimum of 25 attempts.
Which was a record.
Wow.
I think he initially set that record in week 1 against Arkansas State. So he's now broken that record twice in the span of 14 days. So yeah, the guy all in all has been really, really good through 3 games. And yeah, you know what? It's non-conference play. Yeah, Oklahoma handled all 3 of those opponents easily, as they should have. But there's I think when you look at this non-conference slate compared to last year's non-conference slate for Oklahoma, the Sooners did handle their business with a flair that they didn't have it in non-conference play last year. And it was a really impressive win at Nebraska to close out the non-conference slate. I'm not going to try to take that away from that team, but to be as dominant through 12 quarters, really without exception, as the Sooners have been all year, I don't want to get out in front of my skis here. I don't want to say anything that isn't going to hold up depending on what we see or don't see from this team when they actually play a Power 5 program for the first time all year. And no, SMU doesn't count yet. But consider for a moment the fact that Cincinnati just lost today to Miami of Ohio. Oklahoma obviously travels to Cincinnati next weekend. If Cincinnati's performance today is any indication, Oklahoma's going to win that game handily. They come back home to Norman on September 30th to face an Iowa State team that just went on the road and lost to Ohio. Yeah, the other OU. Athens, Ohio, not Athens, Georgia we're talking about here. So the Cyclones lost today in a 10-7 ball game to Ohio. The next two teams on Oklahoma's slate are teams that, once again, they should handle. No question about it. No ambiguity to be found there. These are two teams that the Sooners should beat and beat handily. And if that is the case, man, for the first time in a minute, I'm trying to think, when was the last time Oklahoma and Texas were both undefeated coming into the Red River shootout? Because it's been more than a minute, and that possibility is very much on the table the way that those two teams are playing right now.
It is. I think I want to see who Texas has on their schedule here left to play before they go. So they've got to go to Baylor. And
they'll win.
Okay. I don't disagree with that, but I don't think it's going to be just a walk in the park by any stretch of the imagination.
I do. That Baylor team is not good.
I mean,
that is not a good football
team. I don't think they're good either, but they gave Utah all they could handle. And Utah they're a decent team. I mean, they're a top 15 team.
I don't want to go too big picture too fast here because there is a lot to talk about from this Oklahoma Tulsa game today.
But this is an interesting topic that fans will want to talk about. Absolutely, they'll want to hear this.
Well, what I'm getting
Kansas game is what I'm interested on September 30th, by the way, with Texas. That's going to be interesting. Very interesting.
Where I'm kind of going is, I think at this point through 3 weeks, we just kind of have to collectively acknowledge that there's not a whole lot we know looking across the landscape of college football. We have very little idea who's actually good and who's not, because nobody has looked overpowering or invincible through 3 weeks. Georgia
could this be the year that Parity in the transfer portal actually start rearing its head more than any other year? Like, this is the first time that it's like a big deal.
I mean, if the first 3 weeks are any indication, Brandon, yes, certainly, because I don't think there's any better example of this than Texas and Alabama. Right? Texas goes to Tuscaloosa last weekend, knocks off the Crimson Tide 34-24, and what was everybody's takeaway in the aftermath of that football game? Oh, shoot. Texas is going to be a problem in 2023. And Alabama, man, they have fallen off their pedestal. Now, Alabama just went down to South Florida. I believe that was a 3-3 game late in the third quarter before Alabama scored a touchdown to pull in front, later added an insurance score and won that game 17-3. 17-3.
Correct.
Over South Florida. That is not the type of win we're used to seeing from Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. So I would argue the takeaway this weekend would be, well, shoot, Alabama, the gold standard in college football over the last 15 years, might not even be as good as we thought they were even after that Alabama loss. But conversely, Texas goes back home to Austin, and they struggled. They struggled mightily against Wyoming. Now, admittedly, that's a Wyoming team that looks pretty competitive at the very least. They beat Texas Tech on their home field a couple weeks ago. And so Wyoming is not a pushover of a football team. But still, if for no other reason than sheer discrepancy in talent level, Texas should not have any problems with Wyoming in their own building. That game was 10-10 heading into the fourth quarter. So you look at Georgia, they trailed by double digits at halftime against South Carolina before clawing back to win that game. There are just so few teams. We're sitting here right now recording. Colorado, the darlings of college football, they're losing to Colorado State right now in the third quarter as we sit here. So
and they have
who's good, who's not?
new O-linemen. Colorado State does 14 new O-linemen, which leads to my question. Is the transfer portal? It was always one or two teams like TCU and a couple other teams that made big jumps and were really competitive and looking to make playoff runs and stuff like that over the last 3 or 4 years. This might have been the first season where we're actually starting to see parity start to rear its head in college football. Whether people think that's good for college football, whether they think it's bad, that's a judgment call. But 14 new offensive linemen. Oklahoma has just transformed its roster through the portal, right?
Sure.
I mean, and they look better between year 1 and year 2 so far. Of course, we said that last year, and look where that ended up after 3 games. So, I mean, it's there's, like you said, so many questions, because could Alabama be bad? Like, could they not be a very good football team? And Texas just looked good against a average team on the road. Like, that's a reality potentially.
Yeah. Well, and let me bring this full circle back to where we began. But when you look at all the chaos around college football today, mentioned Colorado, mentioned Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma's opponent next week, Iowa State losing to Ohio. When you look at a weekend of college football action that brought so much havoc, it almost all the more underscores the impressiveness of what Oklahoma has done through 3 weeks. And I'm not trying to make it sound like the Sooners are a top 5 program nationally, or we should be in awe of this team after 3 games, because there's obviously room for improvement. We've seen it, and there are things to critique the Sooners on. But I think what they have accomplished through 3 games is something that not a whole lot of other programs in the nation have accomplished in their first 3 games, which is to say they've won 3 games very handily. And there is something to be said for that.
I'm glad you said that, Parker, and I'll take that even further and say that, yeah, like you said, it's not that OU is perfect. Today was not a perfect performance. I think there's a couple of things that we can talk about that is curious about how they handle stuff moving forward. But I also thought it was interesting that, compared to how OU maybe handled things offensively last week, what did OU come out? Even Jeff Lebby said we were a little conservative last week. Was OU conservative at all today on offense? I mean, first play of the game is a deep shot to Andrell Anthony. Second play of the game, it's a slant to Jalil Farouk. I thought you saw a team today that didn't take it easy. They wanted to come out and curb stomp Tulsa. That's what they wanted to do, and they came out and did that. And again, it wasn't perfect, but it seemed like they learned from some of the mistakes last week and came out, and Dillon Gabriel threw the ball all over the field, took deep shots, and they scored 66 points against Tulsa. We just saw Oklahoma State score 7 points against South Alabama. Wait, that's the right team, right? I get
no, that's 100%
right.
correct.
Okay, South Alabama. Sorry, I doubted myself when I said it.
No.
That just goes to show you how egregious that loss was. The fact that Jesse wasn't even sure, legitimately not even sure for a second, which directional Alabama school that was that just skull dragged Oklahoma State in Stillwater. And that right there, microcosm of the week.
Yeah, and we're talking about the impressiveness of the Oklahoma, how they've been and how it's been kind of overlooked by a lot of people because they're like, oh, SMU, Arkansas State, Tulsa, whatever. When SMU, in reality, they just went out and skull drug. I know it was like Prairie View A&M or whatever, but they were up 69-0 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Again, I don't care who you are, that's impressive. But, and on that same token, I don't care who you are, having a scoring margin of 177-28 through 3 games. Are you kidding me? That it doesn't matter who you could be playing high school teams, and that would still be like that's dominant.
Well, and let's put this into context. Again, not trying to make Oklahoma sound like a juggernaut.
No, exactly.
But let's call a spade here. If you took the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs, for instance, and you gave them Oklahoma's non-conference slate, and in that non-conference slate, they posted a scoring margin of plus 149, 177-28, we'd be saying, oh my goodness, how is anybody going to be able to hang with this team? So again, I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but the Sooners have won 3 games really impressively, which is more than can be said for the vast majority of programs in college football thus far this season.
It's insane. Look, we need to talk about obviously a few players as well throughout all this, and we'll stick to offense here for a little bit. And you brought up Jalil Farouk, Jesse and Parker. You guys both did, and I believe he had. Trying to remember how many yards. I want to say he 126 because he had 100. He's had 159 and 2 touchdowns through the last 2 games, and that's the way he's playing now. And I think it was that play, and it wasn't. He didn't have a lot of catch last weekend for whatever reason, but after that play, it almost felt like Levy went to the drawing board this week and was like, we're getting 3 the ball in space, and we're going to watch him cook. You know who he reminds me of when he gets in space?
Who's that?
Mark Clayton. Does anybody remember Mark Clayton when he played for Oklahoma?
My favorite wide receiver growing up.
Does he not remind you?
Mark Clayton.
Does he not remind you of him?
Can totally see that.
He's hard to tackle in a phone booth, and it's not like he gains. And Mark Clayton didn't gain a whole bunch of yards sometimes in some of those moves that he would make, but the moves were awesome enough that he would turn a 5-yarder into a 15-yarder instead of he make a first down. And that's essentially what Farouk's been doing the last few weeks. He's exciting. He's exciting in the return game. He's exciting when he catches the ball in space. He is becoming who we all thought he was going to be after the Oregon game in 2021. Because he had those 3 catches in the Alamo Bowl, and we were all like, oh my God, this dude is going to be special. And he had 400 or 500 yards last year, and he had his moments. But I think the last 2 games has really opened the eyes to a lot of Oklahoma fans of, okay, this is who this guy can be. He can be a number 1 or a 1A, 1B type guy with Andrew Anthony.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Brandon, because that was the thing I liked today was that it was through the first 2 weeks, it was just Angel Anthony and not Jalil Farouk. And I like that today it was Angel Anthony and Jalil Farouk. They both finished with over 100 yards. And along that same token, Nick Anderson also finished with over 100 yards.
Oh, here we go, baby.
Yeah. It's only the second time in program history that 3 OU wide receivers had 100 yards or more in the same game. Or second time in history, first time since 2012. Nick Anderson was also incredible today. We should talk about Nick Anderson. But if you're trying to project forward and you're looking at how this game differs from the first 2 games, it was all Angel Anthony the first 2 weeks. And today it was both Jalil Farouk and Angel Anthony, and you saw the value and the power that having those 2 guys. And it's nothing, again, I mentioned earlier, but there's nothing that embodies that better than the first drive of the game, a 55-yard pass to Angel Anthony, then a 34-yard touchdown to Jalil Farouk. this OU offense now. We need the wide receiver depth. That's another discussion. But for this team to reach its ceiling, they have to figure out a way to feature both of those guys and not either or. And they did that today when they didn't do that the first two games.
Regarding all of the Nick Anderson stock I'm holding, yesterday's price is not today's price. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, that boy was good today. 3 catches, all of them bombs, all of them touchdowns. And man, did he flash some impressive physicality on a couple of those touchdown catches too.
That third one, I'm pretty sure he dragged that defender like 15 yards. That's what it seemed like anyways when it happened.
I mean, wrong? You have to – what you must consider when putting Nick Anderson's – or really just like attempting to grasp what Nick Anderson accomplished today, because it was so impressive. 3 catches, they all went for touchdowns. Those are Lee Morris type numbers right there. But what you must consider regarding Nick Anderson is that he is the brother of one of the most explosive running backs that the program has seen in recent memory, in Rodney Anderson. And he himself is a converted running back. So there was a time in his life he was playing a lot of running back. He ultimately outgrew that position and became a wideout. But he very clearly still runs like a running back and does not shy away from contact, does not shy away from physicality. And you saw it on that third touchdown catch in particular, because he was a man on a mission and nobody was going to stop him until he crossed that goal line.
Yeah. I think what we're starting to see with this OU wide receiver crew is not only depth, but the talent they've been accruing over the last few recruiting cycles. And even through the transfer portal, I think you have to throw that in there as well. I mean, you've seen plays from some of the younger guys like Nick Anderson, obviously Jaden Gibson, like 2 guys that, again, we've talked about ad nausea, right? Like constantly talking about those 2 guys. You need the big receivers. They need to go out and they need to start making plays. And then today, obviously, Nick Anderson with the 3 touchdowns, just a huge day all around for him. And then that catch that Jaden Gibson made was where he just absolutely manhandled everybody. That play wasn't being made by him last year. As a matter of fact, he probably was going to hit his hands and probably fall into the opponent's defender's hands and be an interception. This time he just, manhand that down. And as everybody's trying to bat it out, he used his big old mitts to just grip the ball really hard as he's falling to the ground, which shows the strength, shows the confidence that he has in himself now. That was even lacking as recent as the spring game. So over the last 3, 4, 5 months, something has clicked with Jaden Gibson, and we're seeing the 4-star, the top 250 kid in the country that everybody thought he was going to be when he got to Oklahoma. Why Florida wanted him so bad. Like, you're talking about a Florida legacy that decommitted from Florida and chose Oklahoma.
You want the most straightforward explanation in the world? Emmett Jones. Jones.
Yeah. I think you got to add Schmitty in there too, though. Like two cycles of Schmitty, I think, is big as far as the strength goes. But yes, confidence, 100% Emmett Jones, and what he's going to be doing to the wide receiver room, and what he's doing in 24 and 25 is insane. So that room's not going to do anything but get better. The running backs, I thought after Talley Walker, I know what they wanted to do. They wanted to get the dudes that look like future All-Americans in the Cheetah Bowl a bunch of carries. But unfortunately, those 2 are just coming off injuries. And Sawchuk doesn't have the burst yet that we saw in the Cheetah Bowl. Like, he just didn't. There was a couple of times he hit the hole and got to the second level and got tripped up or whatever. That didn't happen in the Cheetah Bowl. He ran through it and busted a 20, 30, 40-yard run. Barnes looks like he's not as fast as he was last year. Am I wrong on that? Like, it just looks like he lost a step right now, or he's trying to gain confidence in that foot. One or the other.
The running back room, it's been interesting through 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting. I think if there's one, and it's weird because if you look at the box score really through all 3 weeks, it's not bad. I mean, today they averaged 4.3 yards per carry, which is like, that's fine. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. But outside of a couple of decent Javonte Barnes runs today, the running backs were not impressive. And I think that's where it goes back to what we were saying, like 66 points. There's no reason to complain. You win by 49 points. No reason to complain. But the running back room is interesting. It just feels like where the running back room was which Eric Gray had an incredible year last year, but the rushing attack was the backbone of this offense last year. And through 3 games, that has not been there. Now, I think they're still trying to figure things out. I mean, Tolly Walker, did he see a snap today? Did he see a snap?
Yeah, he did.
Did
he
see
was
one?
in there for Arnold's goal line for sure.
That's right. That's
but
right.
I don't think he did he get a carry?
He did. No, he didn't. Neither he or Marcus Major saw a carry today, which again, and Brandon, I know you reported that earlier today that it was going to be a lot of Barnes and Sawchuk, but again, it's the way the running back room has been handled is really interesting, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the running back room that the rushing attack for this offense as a whole has been fine, but not spectacular through 3 weeks.
No rhythm.
There's just no rhythm, and it seems like the offensive line pass blocking has been more of a strength than run blocking. Maybe it's still early. There's a lot of new pieces trying to.
That's pretty typical
out.
with Bill Bedenbaugh, though. That's pretty typical. Like, I mean, think back at all the big rushing seasons that everybody's had at Oklahoma. Even Eric Gray, through the first few games of the year last season. Yeah, he started off great. I think week 1, week 2. And I want to say it was like the middle of the year where I think it was K-State, where like he just took, I'd have to go back and look at the box score. He ended up with like 1,300 yards last year. And I know a lot of the 100 yards were the back end of the season. He started accruing like almost 200-yard games at sometimes. And Barnes started getting his rhythm going and started playing really well at that point. So I just, that's typical of a Bill Bedenbaugh offensive line. Around Texas, you're going to see it start clicking, and the run game is going to start working just like it always does. But it better, because if they don't have a run game against Texas, it's going to be a problem. Like, it just is. They need to get somebody going. And it may be just, I know that they're trying to get those guys carries. And here, I want y'all's opinion on this. But I also think like they know Tawee Walker's probably going to be that dude for him right now. And that's what it's looked like through the first couple of games, that maybe they're trying to keep him fresh because he's such a physical runner that you, through some of these games that they're going to be playing, if they feel like maybe he doesn't need to take as many hits until they get in the meat of the conference, don't let him take as many hits. Now, I know that sounds weird to say, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to find a rhyme or a reason for what they're doing, and I can't. So that's just where I'm going with. I'm taking a stab at it. I don't know.
So I will say I noted at halftime that at halftime OU had attempted 22 passes, only 13 rushing attempts, and I thought that was pretty telling for Jeff Lebby's offenses historically run the ball more than they pass. They just do. They did last year, and I thought it was pretty telling that not only did they pass it more today, but I thought it was telling that again 4.3 yards per carry is fine, but you would have figured that this team could run all over Tulsa if it wanted to. And yeah, Brandon, kind of your point, I do think there's some weird, to use an NBA term, load management going on with this running back room, but I think it's weird. And again, yeah, look, we've all said for months now that Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes are probably going to lead this backfield. But Tawee Walker has objectively been the best running back through 2 games. It is kind of bizarre he didn't see 1 carry today. Like not one. He didn't see 1 carry. And that's not even a criticism. It's just more like through 3 weeks, this running back room has been really interesting. It's been really interesting.
I bet you see a ton of Tawee Walker this weekend against Cincinnati. I'll bet money on it. I will bet money they go back to Walker. I don't know that they feel I'm not a Marcus Major hater. I actually think he has a chance. I've always thought his talent was so great and his potential. I just think some of the injuries have taken a toll on him through the years. And just just other things with the academic stuff where he was like ineligible for half the season in 2021. It just so many different. It may have been 20. Was it 2019 or 2021?
It was 21. You're thinking
21. Yeah, 21. So there's just been so many things that have gotten in his way that I think it's hindered his growth. And he's never really gotten, again, like you said, a rhythm to get going. I think at some point you're going to see more Sawchuk because you need a change of pace guy. And if there's anybody and I wrote this today on OU Insider, if there's anybody that's a change of pace guy in that running back room that doesn't go by the nickname of Hollywood and his name Dalen Smothers, it's Gavin Sawchuk. He is the change of pace guy. He's the speed guy. He's the guy that if he gets to the second level, it's night-night. Like you're not catching him. And he hasn't had enough carries to prove that outside of the Cheetah Bowl. So they've got to start getting him in rhythm. I think you're probably going to see a lot more of him on next Saturday as well. I just, my gut, I'll ask around just like I did this past weekend and get a write-up for everybody on OU Insider when I get told stuff that I can actually expound on publicly. But I do think that you're going to start seeing more of him. And I think they made that pretty clear today that they're going to try to get him in a rhythm. I also think Bill Beanbo's tinkering with the offensive line, and they're not getting in the rhythm run game wise because run blocking is completely different than pass blocking. Pass blocking is pretty monotonous. You get the guy that crosses your face, right? That's your job. Depending on whether they slide the protection right, center, left, it doesn't. That all that depends on it, but it's pretty monotonous. Run blocking is very different, whether you're pulling, whether you're combo blocking, having to reach to the next level. There's so many different things you have to do. And it's not only rhythm, but they've got to start meshing together. And I don't see it. I don't see the meshing. I don't see the togetherness through the offensive line yet, particularly in run blocking. Offensive line, pass blocking has been great. But run blocking's been a problem all season. And it's always like that with Bill Bedenbaugh. Because through the first few weeks, does he not always tinker with all these different lineups and moving this guy to left tackle from right tackle and then left guard to right guard or right guard to right tackle to right guard? Like he wants all these guys that can play multiple positions, and it hinders their cohesiveness early on. But they always become arguably the best offensive line in the Big 12 by season's end. So what he does works, but we all sit here and we talk about the same thing every year. Like the run blocking's not that good right now. They're not running the ball right. They're not doing this. And then the Texas game or around the Texas game runs around and they start meshing. They got to get it in the next 2 weeks. It's got to happen. Got to happen. Who is the best, in y'all's opinion, who's the best offensive line grouping that you all have seen this year. As far we all know Andrew Rame's center, throw that out. Like he's going to be the center. We all know we know Guyton's right tackle, correct? Right,
Yes.
yeah, right tackle.
Yes.
We all know Guyton's right tackle.
I tell you, man, I kind of liked that. I kind of liked that five that they were cooking with for a while in the second and third quarter today. Sexton at left tackle, Caden Green at left guard. You had obviously Rame at center, Matayer at right guard, and then Tyler Guyton at right tackle. They made some good headway with that.
Played pretty well today, though. I will give him that much.
He did. Brent Venables wouldn't elaborate much on his status after the game in the post-game press conference.
They didn't even show it on TV. What happened?
Yeah, well, and I didn't see him exit the game either, so I wasn't aware until Caden Green was suddenly in there at left guard that something had happened to Savion Byrd. So I didn't catch what it was, and Venables didn't say anything terribly revealing.
Probably a knee, if that's the case. Would just be my guess, and I have no idea because I didn't see it. So just me. That's an assumption, making an ass out of you and me. So, defensively, guys. Actually, real quickly on Jackson Arnold. Everybody hates the Jackson Arnold package. We all get it. I think it's weird, but there's a reason for it that people need to understand. And that reasoning is it makes teams have to prepare for it and all the things you can do off of it. And that's why they ran that little reverse throw with him at wide receiver and stuff today. Now Texas has got to work on it because they could run it again, and they could probably run something off of it potentially, like another throwback to Dillon Gabriel, if you will. Hand it off. He takes off, hand it off to Jackson, and Jackson throws it down the other backside again to Dillon. Like there's so many things they're going to have to work on, and they have to take the time to do it. And it keeps them from working on the main stuff, their regular packages and 12 personnel, 11 personnel, 20 personnel, all that type of stuff that they do on a regular basis. I actually think it's genius to do it against teams like this that you don't give a crap whether it works or not. You're doing it to make people have to account for it on film and in practice and waste time. It's gamesmanship. It's gamesmanship. You're winning by a margin of 177 to 28. Who gives a crap if that worked? Honestly, like against teams like this. Am I wrong?
I mean, no. I mean, I don't think you're wrong. My overall takeaway from it has been it has certainly not been wildly successful. It's not blown anybody's socks off the last couple of games. But to me, it's not surprising given not only what Jeff Levy has said, but what Brent Venables said before the season started, which is they know Dillon Gabriel isn't coming back next year, or Dillon Gabriel is not going to be the starting quarterback next year. They have to prepare for Jackson Arnold to be the starting quarterback. They are confident in Dillon Gabriel right now, but they want to find some ways to get Jackson Arnold on the field in time that's not garbage time. That's honestly been my takeaway from it. And in a game you win 66-17, you can afford a couple of not wildly successive plays to get your future starting quarterback on the field for a couple plays. Even in weird ways.
I'm playing with wide receiver. It's like Vince Young and Mac Brown back in I think it was 2002.
It would have had to have been 2003, probably. The Chance Mock, Vince Young crossover.
Well, he played wide receiver quite a bit because Chance Mock was a better player at that point. He caught touchdown passes as a wide receiver. People probably forget that. Defensively, Danny Stutzman's a bad dude. That's a bad man.
There is, as of right now, there is one player. No disrespect to Dillon Gabriel, but as of right now, there is one player on Oklahoma's roster that's an All-American if the season ended today, and that's Danny Stutzman.
Oh, yeah.
He has been lights out through 3 games.
That interception was impressive, mainly because he was going one direction and the ball was going that direction, and he reaches out as he's running and tips it to himself, and then turns around and just blows by it. That Iowa State game, I think, was the other one that he did that last year, where you actually got to see his speed in the open. He can fly.
He was flying.
He got a fifth gear, man. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
No, Florida State last year as well. There was a play where QB was rolling. Oh man, I can't remember the QB's name now.
Jordan Travis.
Yeah, he was rolling out to his right, and Danny Stutzman backsided him all the way across the field. And I'll never forget Florida State media sitting around me, and they're going, "Did they not prepare how fast 28 is?" Because he just kept making plays like that last year in the Cheetah Bowl. You're like, that is the fastest linebacker Florida State's faced all season. That dude, and I think that's when it clicked, was that game. Like, it clicked, and the game slowed down so much for him at that point. And we're just seeing a continuation of that into the 2023 season, now that he understands Venables' defense. And I talked to somebody the other day that said Danny Stutzman, Jaron Kanik, Kobe McKenzie, and they named like 15 kids or 15 players on the defense are in the film room dang near the same time every day. So you can go in there and you know those guys are going to be in there. And he said every day they're in there. And I think that's where you're starting to see the growth, the togetherness, and the willingness to put in that extra work, that film work, to understand what they need to do, down distance situations, hashes, percentages, and what they're going to be asked of defensively against the opponent, because they understand their opponent through film study. I think that is huge, and something, remember, that was a big question about Danny when BV first showed up. He didn't take it serious. Now look at him. Totally different person. Which his defense is different now because of it. But is there a world that if he continues playing like this, he goes to Orlando and is a Butkus finalist?
Yes. Absolutely, without question. Right now, I find me 5 linebackers in the country playing better than Danny Stutzman. I defy you to do so.
Yeah.
You're not going to. 3 games is 3 games, right? Show it to me in the next 9. But again, right now, the season ended today. Danny Stutzman's an All-American.
Danny's stats through 3 games, just to read them: 30 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, a sack, an interception, and a fumble recovery. And that's important to keep that in mind, because he's obviously got the team lead in tackles with 30. He had 9 tackles today, which was also the team lead. The next closest in tackles on the team is Kip Lewis with 15, half the amount of tackles that Stutzman has.
Wow.
And it's also even more impressive considering that Danny Stutzman barely played against Arkansas State. I mean, I think he played like 25 snaps against Arkansas State.
He played, 25, exactly. Yeah, no, that's right. That's crazy. That's crazy. Justin Harrington. Do we see him again this season? I keep hearing that it's partially torn, but there's some cautiousness being thrown around there with his knee, that maybe they want to go see if they can't clean it, fix it up, do something. Obviously, Brent Venables, didn't he say today like they would know more later this week? He's probably going to get more tests done to see if it needs surgery, from my understanding. That's scary for Oklahoma. But are they better with Peyton Bowen at Cheetah?
I honestly think it is a tough question. And I don't know if we know enough yet. I don't know if we've seen enough yet to make that judgment one way or another. I think both of them are viable options at that position. And obviously, Peyton just offers a ridiculously high athletic ceiling to the point where you're almost forced to get that guy a large percentage of snaps, whether that's at safety or whether that's at cheetah. He's just a guy you want on the field, right? But I feel as though the willingness to rush Harrington back, if you will, and you're not going to jeopardize a kid's health, but the difference between Harrington coming back at 85% and Harrington coming back at 100% might be how Peyton Bowen plays over the next couple of weeks. You feel me on that?
What's your thoughts, Jesse?
I think that's the perfect way to put it. I think that's a really, really good way to put it. And I need to go back and watch the film, but I thought Peyton Bowen had some really good moments today. Mm-hmm. I thought he had some tough moments today, which is to be expected for a freshman playing his third game of his collegiate career at the cheetah position in Brent Venables' defense. It's clear that dude can play cheetah. It's clear he understands the game, but I thought there were a few moments. It really in the defense as a whole, which I thought the defense was really good, but had some bad moments. I don't even know if it's a question. I think Parker put it perfectly, but I don't know if it's a question about whether OU is better if Peyton plays cheetah primarily. I think it's more about wanting the depth there, if nothing else. Not having Harrington, not having another guy who can play that position pretty well, I think hurts a lot. And, we'll see when McCullough comes back. But again, second straight missed game for Dasan McCullough too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting how you put it, Parker. And I agree with you, Jesse, that, a lot's being asked of Peyton right now, a freshman, right? Cheetah, which is arguably outside of the will, the most important position in Brent Venables' defense. I think in my mind, you've got to find another guy. And they're looking at Kendall Dolby. We reported that. We were the ones. I don't think anybody else even knew that was happening. We reported that on OU Insider to our members earlier. I guess it was Friday night, late Friday night. I had it up on the board that, Kendall Dolby would be rotating with Peyton Bowen. And obviously he got an interception playing the cheetah position. So he's going to, and I was told by a source that guy may end up being the best of them all at cheetah because Peyton obviously is going to be a safety when it's all said and done. But they said that Dolby moving inside with his understanding of the college game, since he's already played in college, whether it be junior college or whatever, he has a chance to be that guy and really challenge McCullough at that position. I, at the same time, feel like Kip Lewis is another guy that you've got to look at there a little bit because he moves well, and they are looking at him there. I'm telling you, we reported that as well. They're looking at him there, and I think he played a little bit of cheetah today, sparingly. So,
he played a lot of cornerback today and had a pick.
Who's that?
Dolby.
Dolby only played cheetah today.
No, Dolby was playing. He was playing corner. He played a lot of corner.
I thought he was playing. I thought he was playing cheetah. Last I looked.
No, he was playing a lot of outside corner today.
Did
he? Yep.
Interesting. The defensive guy I talked to today said he only played cheetah, and then maybe how they lined it. He may have been playing cheetah. I don't know how he worded that to me, but I'm just telling you that's what they told me. He was playing the cheetah position all day. So, and I thought that pick. That's why I asked. I said, did he pick it when he was at corner? And they're like, no, he played cheetah. That's all he played. So I don't know. Was there another corner out there at that time?
Yeah, there was.
Were there two other ones out there?
No. They did it. They did it in different permutations. Obviously, gotcha. There would be. I want to say his pick. I do believe his pick actually came while he was playing outside corner because I think it was him and Makari Vickers.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. I even asked that to this person, And of all people, they should know, which is just weird. So maybe I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I still think the good news about it is they still have Sammy Omasigo just waiting in the wings. They just said that he wasn't asked to do a whole lot in high school, so he's still trying to grasp the defensive scheme mentally. Physically, they said he is just out of this world ready. It's the mental part and understanding your assignments and keys and everything is where he struggles the most. Who was your player of the game on defense?
Player of the game? I mean, there's.
I know there's a lot, but just if you had to pick one, who would it be?
Well, no, I was about to say I think there's an easy answer, and I think that easy answer is Danny Stutzman. But
okay, okay. Outside of Danny Stutzman, who is the player of the game on defense? Would it be Gentry?
Gentry had a big pick. Let's think. Dolby had a pick.
He was up there in tackles too.
Trace Ford had a pick. PJ would have had a pick if not for
no. That was a pick six if they wouldn't have called. If they wouldn't.
And we got to correct the pronunciation, Jesse, because
shoot.
And I don't know if I have no idea what to think at this point because there's a video that I always have used to point people to the pronunciation of PJ's name because I've always said Adibare because that's exactly how his older brother pronounces it in a news story that he did when he was back in high school. But apparently, so PJ, I asked him in his post-game availability, I was like, can you just settle this once and for all? How do you say your last name? And he said, Adibawara. So, very different from what his brother said.
That is much different.
Very different. So
are we going to call him Adibora or are we going to say Adibore?
Adibawara.
Adibawara. Eddie Bauer. There's no way I'm going to pronounce it like that. That sounds ridiculous.
We're just going to call him PJ. That's what we're going to do. We got to come
up him Adibore until he corrects me. No, Adibora. Okay, Adibora. PJ Adibora. Oh my God. Adibawara. I almost think he's messing with you because it sounds like you're saying Eddie Bauer.
He's not that type though. Like PJ's pretty no nonsense. So, and it's exactly that way in the pronunciation guy, which is why I was so surprised when I saw it there in the pronunciation guy. Like I was like, oh, that's not how his brother said it back in the day. But
Okay, say it one more time.
Adibawara.
PJ Adibawara. We just look ridiculous and sound ridiculous.
Brandon's just going to call him PJ Eddie Bauer from now on. That's
what this is going to Eddie Bauer.
Oh man, but that kid makes stuff happen. And
yeah, he does. He's
obviously got his first sack today. Several have suggested via social media that his nickname be the Mantis because that's what he looks like when he's down in that crouch getting ready to rush. Because he's just so freakishly long. He's such a unique specimen, man. And I think what's really going to be special is watch Schmitty put 15 pounds on that kid this offseason because he will be a big part of the defensive rotation in 2023. He will play a lot of snaps.
End up being this year, yeah.
Oh, he will end up playing
this year. Okay, yeah.
But come 2024, when he's playing at 250, 255 instead of 236, hello.
Yeah.
At that point, that dude becomes quite literally unstoppable. Because with his combination of length and speed and power, you get Chavis to continue to hammer out and refine the technique, and you get Schmitty to bulk him up more. There's not going to be a more dominant defensive end in the country than that kid. He is simply too physically gifted.
As good as he is, they're still playing without a healthy Mason Thomas, which I continue. Everybody tells me, God, man, my allergies are killing me, just making my face itch so bad. Everybody tells me that Mason Thomas is just that dude, and that he has a chance to be like a double-digit sack guy
And
at
I
one
believe
point. Yeah, no, I believe it, but we can't ever see it because his ankle is never good. So let's hope that his ankle heals up in the next week or two and we get to see it against Texas, because that'll be a fun time for him to have a coming out party. As far as the Mantis nickname, all I can think of is Ace and Gary off SNL when the Mantis, because the Mantis was always the bad guy. And if you don't know what Ace and Gary is, it would be very taboo these days. But go and watch it. It's a cartoon skit on SNL. YouTube it. It's hysterical. It's so Parker, you will find it hilarious, by the way. If anybody will find it, it'll be you. So yeah, no, I just can't get behind that at all, just because of that. Though he does look like a mantis because he's so long and lanky at this point. What defensive tackle wise, what do you all think of that position right now? I'm still kind of on the fence a little bit.
I mean, I thought the defensive line as a whole, I mean, played fine today, but as far as that defensive tackle spot, it still looks to me like the coaching staff's trying to figure that spot out. That's just, I mean, that's the obvious thing. That's not even real analysis. That's just, it's clear to me that they are trying to find not only who should see the snaps there, but also the combinations who should see the field together. And to me, I think next weekend against Cincinnati is going to be by far the most telling thing we'll get in terms of not only where this coaching staff feels this defensive tackle spot is at, but I mean, yeah, I mean, even today, I mean, they've tried a bunch of different players there. I don't know if anybody has really particularly stood out way more than anybody else has.
one guy has to me.
Okay.
Grayson Halton has been pretty good.
Grayson Halton. Grayson Halton is the
Bingo.
name. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Grayson Halton has
really
played
good.
very limited snaps through 3 weeks, but every single time he's been on the field, he has made something happen in the backfield.
Agreed. I've seen Kelvin Gilliam make some plays, Isaiah Coe, but consistently it's been Grayson Halton. Like when he's been out there, he's been consistent with it. And I think they need somebody else to come out and do it. And I will say, I think Dejon Terry and Jordan Kelly have been really good in the run. I think they've got to find a way. They've got to find a way to get, like, maybe you slide, I don't know, Reggie Grimes or Ethan Downs in there with them. I think Laulu has also looked in the pass rush. I think Laulu's looked pretty good, actually. He's been getting through. BV talked about it today, and that's why I asked this question. Gap integrity is something, and understanding what they need to be doing within the confines of not just the system, but the trying to think of the word that they used today. Not the calls, but I guess essentially the calls, what they're being asked to do on certain plays, certain packages. I think there's still some confusion sometimes within the interior defensive line, and that's where they get beat when the quarterback, gets out of pocket. But he gets out of pocket because it's not collapsing inside to help the outside guys, bring it in. And there's a struggle there right now. I can almost guarantee you Bates and company are going, man, hurry up, David Stone, hurry up, Jaden Jackson. We need you. Whatever other transfer portal guy we can bring in, we need you. Because they do. They need more depth heading into the SEC, and they need more depth if they want to win the Big 12. It needs to start showing face like soon at defensive tackle. They're better than they were last year, but they're not where they need to be by a long shot there. Lots of work to do. I still think they're going to be way better at the end of the season, but they're not quite there yet, just like the offensive line. All right, real quickly, before we end this podcast, secondary-wise, who is the best player? And give me your not Danny Stutzman, not Dillon Gabriel. Who is the offensive and defensive MVPs of the day? Taking those two out of the equation.
Okay. So hang on, a lot to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll get the MVPs out of the way. Offensive MVP for me is Nick Anderson. Mm-hmm. Defensive MVP for me, man. I guess I can
say it, PJ.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say PJ. I guess I can kind of segue into the secondary conversation here, because one guy that was flying around and hitting before he left with that injury was Reggie Pearson. Reggie Pearson had himself a day, and it was abbreviated because
he struggles in pass coverage is so bad.
Yeah, and he did kind of get burned on that one touchdown catch, but
not just one.
Man, was he responsible for both of them?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was
Makari Vickers.
I thought it was Makari Vickers that blew the assignment.
Makari Vickers turned around and looked at him like he was supposed to help cover over the top. I don't know, but he was in there on both of them. I, again, talked to somebody today and said, like, yeah, he is struggling. Pearson's struggling to cover in space right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, I would say that might be a guy you turn loose at Cheetah too.
Exactly.
In the weeks ahead, because you know, if you're down Harrington, if you're down DeSamacola, who warmed up as if he was going to play today, like went through the whole. It was like Dillon Gabriel at the Cotton Bowl last year. Went through the whole.
Didn't he do that last week too? Like he warmed up last week too, right?
It wasn't the Parker. You would know better than I would, but last week he dressed up but didn't really go through warmups. Today he went through warmups.
Yeah,
is that right, Parker?
He was just walking around, running around, preparing as if he was going to play that football game, and that didn't touch the field. So if you are down Justin Harrington and DeSamacola is hobbled in any capacity, and Peyton Bowen is your primary option for the moment at Cheetah, I wouldn't think it would be a bad idea to maybe give Robert Spears-Jennings or Key Lawrence an expanded look at that other safety spot and slide Reggie Pearson down and go with the combination of him and Peyton Bowen, because those are two guys that almost, like, neither of them are very big, but they almost give you a linebacker's physicality in a defensive back's body. Not almost. I mean, that's really what those guys are. That's what they do. They are completely unafraid in run support. When it comes to getting downhill and laying a hit on somebody, they do it as well as, better than any other defensive back on Oklahoma's roster. So those are the two guys to me that if you're looking for a more athletic Cheetah, if you're looking for a guy that's a little bit more capable of helping out in pass coverage, primarily, more so than just providing run support, Reggie Pearson and Peyton Bowen are the guys to me that fit that bill.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Who's your you so you had Nick Anderson. Who was your defensive guy?
I will go with, because he's a 918 guy, I'll go with Gentry. I'll go with Gentry to make a hey, he picked off. I don't even know who was playing quarterback. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize you were picking too.
No, I'll pick after you guys. No, I got other guys I can pick from.
Give me Gentry.
Everybody had a good game. No, take Gentry.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that had good days today, so there's a lot of good play. So
give me Gentry. He is it was just a really cool moment to watch a guy like that in his return home to the 918 slam the door on Tulsa's very first drive of the game in the manner that he did.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gentry too, but I will say for offensive, I'll say Jalil Farouk. I thought he looked really good today. I thought today was a much needed game for him. After just 2 catches through the first 2 weeks. 6 catches, 126 yards, led the team in receiving yards, a touchdown. Thought he was really big. Drake Stoops also was awesome. Deserves a shout out. Drake Stoops was great. But I'll say Jalil Farouk, and then I'm going to say PJ. I'm going to say PJ.
Say it, Parker. What is it?
Adibawara.
PJ.
So weird.
That's on me more than it is anybody else. But I'm going to say PJ.
No, go over there.
PJ was great. I mean, led the team in tackles for loss at 2.5. I thought he looked he just completely overwhelmed and obliterated Tulsa's offensive line when he was on the field today. And I'll say that as far as the secondary, Tulsa moved the ball pretty well on a couple of drives in that second quarter and that first drive of the third quarter. Brent Venables alluded to it afterwards. He used the word sloppy a couple of times to talk about the secondary. I thought that was fair. He basically said there were a lot of good moments, but there were a few moments where they were sloppy. I thought today was the first time the secondary was good, but showed some just like there weren't really any broken plays or gaps in the first 2 weeks. There were a couple today. So, I think that's a product of Harrington's hurt, McCullough's hurt, trying to figure some things out. I don't think it's anything to be worried about. I thought the secondary was good, not great, but Jalil Farouk and PJ, that's what I'm going with.
Adibawara, right? So you say
Adibawara.
Adibawara. Oh, Adibawara. Okay, I got you. Adibawara. There we go. No, it just seemed so.
This reminds
me. I was
me,
not hearing that part the whole time.
Jesse, have you seen the YouTube video of the retiree couple doing the chicken pot pie commercial?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Where he's gotta say baked on a buttery flaky, and he just can't do it. Like 20 takes.
Yeah.
Adibawara. There we go. I got you.
There it is.
Yeah. You got
Adibawara. There we go. I got it.
I got it.
I'm gonna figure this out one of these days, man. God dang, man. Colorado just scored, bro. 36 seconds left. I know you've already seen it.
It's been a fun game.
I want to know if he got in, though. That's the thing, is like, was his knee down or not? He was down before he got in. All right. For me, as far as the secondary goes, I thought it was really good today. I thought they had some busts, obviously. I want to say it was like late in the second quarter, middle of the second quarter, into halftime. They had some busts, and it was rough. And kind of the beginning of the third quarter looked like they were continuing those busts, and then all of a sudden they just started clamping down. And from that point on, Tulsa was just non-existent in moving the ball. The defense is way better than last year. I don't care. It's only been 3 games. We've seen this before, yada, yada, yada. It's better. Brent Venables even said, I see the difference between last year and this year. I see the signs between last year and this year that make me see, why he feels like there's a big tie ball game, big difference. But he said the outcome could still be the same game 4 through 12. And it could still be better just for a variety of reasons. And I get what he's saying. 5 interceptions today, huge. Secondary obviously played well. And he made a point. He said last year we dropped 7. I'm quoting Brent Venables. Dropped 7 interceptions right in our hands in those losses. They also dropped 7 touchdown passes. So the plays are being made that weren't being made last year. No matter how you slice it, that's how you win games, is you make those plays. You don't drop those interceptions. You don't drop those touchdown passes. That's how you win. And I know that's so obvious, but I think fans and even us as media that watch games, sometimes we miss those little moments that change the outcomes of the game and or forget about them because something else happened later on in the game, when in reality it was that play that probably cost Oklahoma or whoever the ball game. So, yeah, they're making plays this year. That's the difference. That's the difference for me in the secondary. Plays are being made that were not made last year. What is that? They have 7 interceptions now this season. Is that correct? 6, 7?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, 5 today for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, and I believe they had 2 before that. So, yeah, I mean, that's just impressive. So, as far as my MVPs go, you had Farouk and PJ Adibara and
close enough. We'll take it.
Close enough. Adibara, right? Dang it, man. Now I forgot why I said it. All right. And then you had Gentry and Nick Anderson, correct?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Andrew Anthony. And again, people, we can't say Danny Stutzman or Dylan Farouk. So I just want to remind you all.
Dillon Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. Sorry. Thank God, man. It is 1 a.m. So I don't really care. Like, I'm out of it at this point. I got 2 hours of sleep last night. I'm going to go with Andrew Anthony because he's had big ball games forever. The last 3 weeks, he had another 100-yard game. So it's pretty obvious why I'm going to pick him. And then on defense, I am going to go with, I want to say Jaron Kanig, but let me go to the defensive stats real quick to make sure that that's even a viable pick. I remember him causing a fumble at one point. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with, actually, you want to know what? I'm going to go I'm going to go Jaron Kanig. He had a sack. He caused a fumble. He had 2 tackles for losses, and he had 5 total tackles on the game. PJ was a really good pick by you, Jesse. He had 2.5 tackles for loss and a sack. And then obviously Gentry Williams with 6 tackles, a tackle for loss, and an interception. So those 3 to me were the dominant guys, regardless, on the day on defense. So great picks. All right. That is going to do it. Obviously, Oklahoma won 66-17 over Tulsa to go 3-0 on the season, heading into the first Big 12 matchup against Cincinnati. Yes, you heard that right. They're going on the road to play Cincinnati to open up conference play. Welcome to 2023. It's weird. It's weird. I don't care. It's weird. If you're not on OU Insider, 2 more days of OU Insider being free for the first 30 days. So if you sign up now on Sunday, and Sunday would be the 17th of September, you sign up September 17th, you will have OU Insider all the way to October 16th for free, which means you got OU Texas. You got potential commits happening. Obviously, Danny Stutzman Danny Okoye is going to announce his commitment on Wednesday between Tennessee, Texas, and Oklahoma. We'll have that covered for you on OU Insider, among other things that are potentially going to happen over the next 30 days, obviously, on the recruiting trail. Parker and I will be out and about covering that for you guys as we hit the road on the trail as well. But you get 30 days of OU Insider for free, which means you get Jesse's coverage of the team, you get Parker's coverage of the team, you get my coverage, you get Brian Clinton's coverage. All of us will be covering the team for you guys on OU Insider, and you get a community full of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are on there talking every day Oklahoma football, and they're just as diehard as you. And it's free for 30 days. You go to OUinsider.com, you sign up, and you type in the word OU Insider 30 in the promo code section, and you get it for free for 30 days. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, this is the OU Insider YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that like, hit that bell, hit that notification. Make sure you are up to date on everything that we drop, whether it's interviews, whether it's podcasts, whether it's just random talking, quick slants, whatever it may be. We drop multiple videos a day, all talking Oklahoma Sooners, whether recruiting, whether team news, right here on this YouTube page. We're almost at 12,000 subscribers. Please, please, please sign up and follow us here on that. We'd love to have you there with us, seeing everything that we're doing, because we want to make sure you, the fan, are covered head to toe. If you're listening to us on the podcast form, go to 5 stars, whatever you want to do. Give us 5 stars, give us a like. Make sure you tell us how bad we are or how good we are. Doesn't matter. We want to hear it. Make sure you also subscribe to that. Also, we do giveaways next week. If you do sign up for OU Insider, there's one more pair of OU Texas tickets we're giving away. The drawing starts on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Will end at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we will be giving that away. We will be giving away OU Insider tickets as well to the Iowa State game, home game, in a couple of weeks. We've given away, it'll be now almost 40 tickets given away, or excuse me, almost 60 tickets given away. Almost 30 members have had OU Insider tickets on us to OU football games. Pretty awesome. And that's all because we thank you guys for being on OU Insider. And then one final note before we end this podcast. We are closing in on a tailgate. It's almost done. We've almost got all the analytics set up. We're hoping to line it up for Iowa State. We will have more information for you guys. Food, beer, TV, football, Parker, me, Jesse, Brian, all of us will be there to say hi to you guys. So that's it. That's it. Want to thank you guys so much for listening to this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor post-game podcast. For Jesse Crittenden, for Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.